Hello everyone, welcome back to Open Source for Geeks. In this recording, I will be showing how to write simple classes in Python. Things that I will be covering in this session is a walkthrough of how to write classes in Python, followed by what are instance variables, what are class variables, what are private methods, and lastly, we'll see how to use property functionality in classes to have more granular control over getter and setter methods for your instance variables. So to write a class, what you have to do is you have to use a keyword called class followed by name of the class. So in this case, I'm going to call it employee. Now, once you do that, you have to define some instance variables that correspond to this employee. So to do that, you have to use a method called init. Now, if you have used other programming languages like Java or C Sharp, you have something called constructor. This is exactly that, right? In Python, init is the magic method or constructor that will be used to initialize that employee. You will see the first implicit argument that this method gets is self. Now, all instance methods of a class will get self as an implicit argument, which you can use to reference the instance that you are creating. Now, what you can add more is the instance variables that you expect end user to pass when they create an instance of employee class. So in this case, I'm going to pass name and age, and then I'm going to define self.name as name passed and then self.age as age passed. And name will obviously be of type string, age will be of type int, and since this is an init, it's not going to return anything. So now we simply have like a class method with constructor defined with two instance variables. One is name and another is age. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to define another instance method called print me. Now if you see, it again took self as an implicit argument, since this is again like an instance method, and this is just going to print the employee object with name. All right, so now that we have class ready, let's go ahead and create an instance of this employee. So to do that, you can create, like you can just name a variable followed by the actual class followed by round braces. Now this will create an employee object. Now, since the constructor takes two arguments, one is the name and age, you'll have to pass that to here. So let me go ahead and do that. Aniket and let's say 30. And then you can call instance method, which is print me, to print the name and string. So let's go ahead and run this. And you can see it says employee with name Aniket and age 30, right? So this is how you create a simple class and invoke methods on it. Now let's see how do we create a class variable. So as you know that self.name and self.age are instance variables. They are specific to individual instances of employee class that you create. Class variables are variables that belong to a class and not to individual instances. So all individual instances of employee class will be sharing that. So let me go ahead and create a class variable called max age, and let's keep it 200 for now. And then you can access that as employee dot max age. And if you print this, it is going to print 200, which we added here. Okay, so now we have instance variables and we have class variables. The next obvious questions that you might have is, unlike other programming languages like Java, where we have explicit getter and setter methods, in Python, everything is public, right? So for example, I could do something like emp.age as 200, and this is going to work. So if I do print me again, it is going to reflect the changed age that I provided as an end user, right? So I don't have control over the validations that I can add when age is set. Sure, I could do that in the constructor, but if somebody does that after an instance is created, I really do not have control over it. So to do take care of this, Python provides a functionality called property. So let me go ahead and show that to you. Now, for properties to work, we have to define name and age as properties, which I'll show to you in some time. So you have to define methods with the same name. So let's do that for age first since we want to add validation on age. So you do def age and then you annotate with a decorator called property, which defines this age as property. And then this is nothing but your getter, so you will simply return self dot age. And why is this underscore age, right? So for a property, while this is exposed publicly, internally it will be handled as underscore the actual name of your attribute. So let's go ahead and define those name as well as age, and let's initialize it to the none. To define the setter method, you also have to do something similar. Uh, Instead of at the rate property, you have to use property name followed by setter. And then here you can do self dot name is equal to, obviously this will take a value argument and you can init initialize it to the underscore name variable. Now here you can add your validations. So here you can see if value is, let's say, greater than or equal to 200, then you raise value error saying age passed is more than max age, and you can also add past age is value, right? So now what will happen here is, and I think we can do similar for name as well. So you just have to change the method name to the property that you want. It will be underscore name. Same thing goes here. You'll have to change the decorator as well. You don't really need validation here. And then you can do underscore name is equal to value. I think I mistyped this, but yeah, now we are doing it correctly. All right, so now we have getter setter for age, we have getter setter for name, and it should work fine. So let me go ahead and run this. Now, when I run this, this is going to work because in constructor we are setting as 30, which is perfectly fine. But the moment we are going to set it, it is going to fail. So it is going to print employee with name Aniket 30 for the first time. It will probably print 200 and then it's going to fail at line number 36. So let's go ahead and try this out. And you can see it printed with age 30, it printed 200 and then it failed at this. So same thing will happen if you pass it in constructor. So if I put 300 here, it is going to fail right away. It is not even going to print this value anyways. So let's go ahead and try that out as well. So as you see, it failed right away with 300 value. So this setter is also invoked when you are trying to set name from the constructor. So this is how you will have granular control over your getter and setter methods for your instance variables. Now, the last thing that I want to cover before I end this session are private methods. So as you saw that, each variable is really public. Like there's no one stopping you from modifying the variables inside your class. And there is no really notion of a private method in Python. However, there is a convention that developers follow, which is this. So if you start your method name with an underscore, so let's say I call print me new method, which is not supposed to be used internally, and let me print something like. Okay, so what this means is there is a new method which starts with an underscore and it does something that is internal to the code. Again, there's no one stopping you from calling this method, but if you are a developer and you see methods that are starting with underscore, or for that matter, instance variables or class variables that start with underscore, you're not supposed to use it publicly outside the class where it was intended to be used. So for example, now if I do emp dot print me new, and I'm going to change this to 30 for it to work. I'm going to comment this out. Now, this is still going to work because like I said, no one is really stopping us for calling this so-called private methods, which is purely based on the convention followed. But if you hover over this, it is going to tell you, like give you a warning saying you are trying to access a protected member, print me off a class which you are not supposed to. So let's go ahead and try to run this. So if you see it still went ahead and executed this code. But again, like I said, if you want to write some private method, this is how you do it. But if you want to use a private method outside the class that it is defined, you need to be cautious to know that whatever you are doing is the right thing to do. Like you could still end up using this private methods in the test cases for this class as like a limited usage, but you should definitely not use private methods outside the class in your production code. Just to reiterate, we basically covered how to write like a simple class, how to create instances of the class, what are instance variables. Those are the ones that are defined inside init. We saw what are class variables. Those are the ones that are defined outside init. We saw how to write methods. We saw how to write private methods. And lastly, we saw how to define properties to have more granular control over getter and setter methods. In subsequent videos, we'll see more on what are static methods, what are class methods, what is a data class, and how to write a class in a more compact manner. So stay tuned and thank you.